Mondays, creeps. I am like losing my mind with excitement right now because as I'm filming this episode, Pope Francis is canonizing Father Junipero Serra, one of my favorite historical creatures. He was a man, whatever. One of my favorite historical people. He freaking founded the missions of California. He was the one that came over, the Franciscan order, and founded all the California missions. And it just so happens that the episode today that we're doing it on is a mission, the Mission Dolores in San Francisco, which just so happens to be one of only 2 of structures left standing that Junipero Serra actually officiated. It is one of 5 basilicas in the United States. This is freaking insane. I'm so excited about it. And to celebrate, I'm drinking Lost Angel Moscato. It's perfect. It's a cold day. It's a hot day. It's not a cold day. I'm so excited. I'm jazzed up. Ching ching creeps. Let's celebrate. The Mission Dolores mission. Why did I choose it for an episode of Macabre Mondays? Well, because its history is freaking incredible. Of course, obviously, duh. It opened on June 29th, 1776, was the 7th mission to be opened by Father Junipero Serra. It is also, the oldest, most intact mission left standing in California. Also, it's the oldest structure in San Francisco. It's still standing because it survived both the 1906 earthquake and fire. It's the only cemetery still in San Francisco because everybody else is in Colma. Why wouldn't I want to go to the oldest and only cemetery still in San Francisco city limits? Hello, people, come on. And you know, we all know what the missions were for. It was Junipero Serra coming over with the Franciscan order and spreading the word of Christianity to the Native American people in this secular region. It was the Ohlone or the Ohlone Indians. I don't know. I can't pronounce it. Look it up. I don't know. I'm not perfect, guys. Let's be honest. But anyways, at its height, it had 1,100 Indians in the land. They had farmlands, and it spread for miles. I mean, this at the time in 1776, that was pretty much it. Like, the mission was the city of San Francisco in a nutshell. And then the freaking gold rush happened, okay? The gold rush came in, and the Mexican War of Independence happened, secularized all the missions, so almost all of the missions' land and farms and buildings, everything pretty much but the church, was sold off. So at one point, you only had 8 Indians left. And so many of them had died from disease, they had to have a 5,000 person mass grave built in the cemetery, which is now marked by a statue in the cemetery. It's pretty dark, guys. It's a sad story. And they had to keep shipping people out because people kept dying. But what happened to those other buildings? What did they become? Well, when the gold rush was happening, there was 1 woman for every 10 men. Well, man, what would, where do all the men want to be? They want to be around the whorehouses. So what do you think's going to be? The mission turns into gambling houses, and it turns into saloons and brothels and all that fabulousness until later on, because all these men had to leave their wives and sweethearts back at home. I mean, honestly, they're not going to bring them on their quest for gold. They don't have the time, the money, the resources, any of that stuff. It's a total show, San Francisco, at this point. Now, the mission itself and the basilica, beautiful. But the shining star to me is the cemetery because it's kind of old, it's decrepit, it's small, it's like there's the mission and then there's like an apartment building and it's just shoved in this little area. I mean, the first relocation happened in freaking 1889. They've been trying to downsize this cemetery for freaking ever. But it's exactly who's buried in that cemetery that brought me to the mission in the first place. Oh, hello. So it's important to keep in mind what life was like in San Francisco in the freaking 1850s. It was pretty much awful. It was so corrupt that this group called the Vigilance Committee had to be formed. And, you know, you might be like me and you think of like vigilantes and you're thinking of like hot boondock saints like things.
Now you will receive us. We do not ask for your poor. Or you're hungry. We do not want you tired and sick.
It is your corrupt we claim.
Yeah, that's not at all what this was. In fact, ironically, they didn't even allow any Irish Catholics to be part of the Vigilance Committee. But there was a really interesting excerpt I read about life in San Francisco during this time, because I think you have to keep in mind that in 1848 there were only 800 people in San Francisco, and then boom, the gold rush, and then you have 25 1,000 people in 1851. And it's just dirty. And there was a really interesting excerpt that I'm going to read to you so we can paint a picture of what San Francisco is like. It says, the sun rose upon vessels from every port, discharging their cargoes of miscellaneous wares and people. All day it beheld the masses of humanity, crowding the long wharves, filling the streets, struggling, battling, drinking, and gambling wildly, looking with unpitying eyes on a corpse covered with blood, joking with the murderer, or hurrying him to jail. That is a perfect example of what life in San Francisco in the 1850s was. It was full of debauchery and people were getting away with it. I think at one point in 1856, there had been a reported 1,400 murders and only 3 people were hung. So the people themselves rose up because they were sick of it. However, these people were radicals and they were insane, and that's gonna be a bad situation when you have a city that is built on prostitution and gambling. Which brings me to the people that I went to go visit at the freaking Mission Dolores Cemetery. We have one Charles Cora and Belle Ryan, aka Belle Cora. Of them, let's do this. The love story between Charles Cora and Belle Ryan is probably my favorite love story ever. Let me paint a picture for you. You have one gambler, that is Charles, and a prostitute, that is Belle, and they decide to move from New Orleans in 1849 together. I don't know what happened to his wife. I don't really honestly care. And they decide, we're really good at swindling people. Let's go to San Francisco because that's where all the people that are making the money from the gold rush are, so let's go there and set up shop. So they do. I'm assuming they took a train ride and it's probably pretty fabulous. And they get to San Francisco and she opens up a whorehouse on DuPont Street and she's like awesome at it. She becomes a madam and she's known as like this fabulously dressed woman. Her ladies are the finest ladies. Her man is in the bars at night gambling away and gambling away. At one point he's worth $400,000. That is an insane amount of money. Like, in all respects, they are high society San Francisco. And then as high society will do, Cora was like, I'm gonna take my lady out to the theater and I'm gonna show her off. I'm not gonna hide her. We run this town, bitch. So he takes her. It's freaking November 15th, 1855, and he doesn't give no shits that at this point, you know, San Francisco is now a family town. It's not just prostitutes and minors. Like, these men have been able to afford to bring out these women. So now, yeah, it's kind of like middle class, high class, whatever. He's like, I'm gonna take my lady out to the theater and we're gonna get the most expensive seats in town. So he gets the most expensive seats in town, and it's either in front of or behind U.S. Marshal William Richardson, who decides, he gets ballsy and he stands up and he says, I'm sorry, your little whore wife, or not wife, your little whore mistress, pardon me, is offending my wife, who is like so proper and prim and proper, such a freaking prude. So like, get the out. And Cora's like, hell no. I paid for these seats. I love my lady. She's fantastic in bed and she knows how to make a buck. And we're going to sit here and we're going to enjoy the show just like you. So shove it. So they stay. And it was kind of a little scuffle, but whatever. And then flash forward another couple freaking days. There's like this weird back and forth. Richardson and Cora keep running into each other at the bars. I'm like, haha, remember that one time we were like fighting at the theater because you call my girl a whore and like your wife's a prude and try to kick me out, haha, no hurt feelings. But they kept running into each other all throughout the night until finally Richardson just got like way too aggressive. So freaking Cora pulled out a pistol and was like, don't freaking call my wife a whore, my girl a whore. She's not his wife, man. Stop calling her a wife. Boom! Just like that, in the middle of the street. It was probably nighttime. Cora shoots William Richardson dead. Just like that. And if that's romance, I don't know what is, because he was defending his girl's honor. Hell yeah, I think he should have shot Richardson dead. But then he goes to jail. And there's this guy, this absolute jackal by the name of James King of Williams, who decides to like, he's so radical, man. He has this newspaper called the freaking Bulletin. and he's just like slamming everybody. And when Cora freaking shoots Richardson, to him he's like, oh, jackpot. Now here's one story where I can just talk about how horrible San Francisco is and how the prostitutes are ruining everything, the gamblers are ruining everything, and you know, the prostitutes are like paying off the politicians, whatever. It was called the Cora case, and he was obsessed with just like slamming and slandering both Charles and Belle. He just loved it because he was against every priest, politician, prostitute in town, and he had all the people in town essentially behind him. And he was smart. He was really smart, because when Cora was in freaking jail waiting for a trial, he had women. He opened up his newspaper to women to write in, because there was no women's rights groups. That didn't happen until 1868. So this actually gave women a voice. And then you have these middle-class women that obviously don't like prostitutes because that's where their husbands are going, because they probably suck in bed and they're insecure about it. So all these women are writing in, talking about stuff, and then he's just slamming them. Belle is probably so sad, and probably also so proud of Cora for defending her honor. Some people even argue that maybe it was Cora that Belle convincing Cora to shoot Richardson. I wouldn't put it past her. She seems like a badass bitch. But also, we all know that all the politicians went to the whorehouses, so yeah, she might have swayed some votes. Everybody went to the whorehouses, okay? Everybody goes there. And yeah, there are rumors that she raised $40,000 to pay people off. So basically the upshot is, when Cora was put on trial, it was a hung trial. So he was basically acquitted, however, not quite, because they kept him in jail because everybody was like, oh, hell no, okay, we are upstanding citizens of San Francisco, and we know something's going on here, and no, you stay in jail because you're gonna get a retrial. So while Cora is in jail, like just probably like kicking the can, you know what I mean, waiting for his retrial, freaking King didn't have that much to report on in his freaking bulletin newspaper, did he? So he started like making crap up about other people. He's like, okay, who can I get crap on to make stuff about? Oh, let's attack other newspapers. So he decided to attack freaking, like, essentially his peer, another local newspaper man, William Casey, wrote this horrible article about him. William Casey reads that and he's like, oh, hell no. This asshole isn't gonna come after me like this. I know this guy's got some propaganda agenda and I'm not for it. So he followed King home one day because he was done. And he's like, yo, bro, don't you be talking about my newspaper or myself. Boom, 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 you're dead. So yeah, I mean, obviously back in the day it was all about your name, really, honestly, and your dignity. Respect is everything. We killed him. And so William Casey gets thrown in jail right next to Cora. They probably became really close. I can assume. I'm picturing them in the same jail cell. But then the Vigilance Committee was like, oh, hell no. Our idol, freaking this King guy of freaking Bulletin just got killed, okay? He was spitting out our propaganda. He was talking about how the government isn't doing anything about all these crimes that are happening because the politicians are looking the other way because they're happy the whorehouses are getting paid off by gamblers. So we have to take matters into our own hands. Hence the Vigilance Committee of 1856. They gathered up 2,600 men of European and American descent, whatever that would have meant at the time. And they basically get cannons, and they get rifles, and they get all sorts of stuff, and they start marching to the jailhouse, okay? And they show up to the jailhouse, they have a cannon positioned at the door, and they're like, yo, knock, 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 Mr. Judge and Jury. We will blow this door down if you don't release one William Casey and one Charles Cora to us to execute for justice. And the judge was like, okay, here's William Casey. And they're like, no, we want both of them. And the judge was like, okay, you can have them, I don't care, whatever, more space for me. So the judge just releases these criminals onto this crazy group of radicals, and then Belle hears about this. Oh my God, the love of my life is about to get, freaking killed by this group of vigilantes, and we're not even married. So the vigilante group takes Charles, Cora, and William Casey to their little makeshift prison, which is called Fort Gunnybags. That's I'm not making that up. That's dead serious. And Cora's like, Belle's like, listen, I love you, okay? I'm gonna spend the rest of my time I can with you, living in this jail cell with you. And the vigilante group was like, okay, yeah, sure. If you want to be in the jail cell too, sure. Hang out, whatever. And then so during freaking King's funeral, which was like this big thing because the whole town loved him because he was like talking about how corrupt the city was. 2 hours before execution, Cora and Belle got married. And it was, I'm sure it was a very sweet moment. And then as the bells of King's funeral rang, the freaking rope dropped, the plank, the board dropped out below Casey and Cora, and they swung and swung and swung until they were strangled dead. So you have to wonder at this point, like, you know, what happened to Belle? Well, the people still weren't satisfied. Yeah, the shooter was killed, but now women had a voice, and these women were middle class, you know, wives, and they didn't like this prostitute was still living in their city. So all these women that had been writing articles for the freaking bulletin paper were still writing in, and King's brother had taken over. And basically these women were like, you know what? I don't care if Belle didn't shoot anybody. She still represents the problem of this town. We need to clean up our streets. San Francisco can't go on with her on our streets. Until one day, this lady named Gertrude decided to write into the bulletin. And she was like, listen, people, okay, I'm a Christian and I'm a wife. And I don't support prostitution, but however, Belle is just a woman who's maybe swayed from her path, and who are we as fellow women to judge? And that struck a chord with King's brother. He released a statement and said, we don't need to talk about Belle, Cora anymore. Let's just let her be. And honestly, that's the story of Belle and Charles ends, because nobody felt it important to write about what happens to a whore after her husband died. What I do know is they were buried together, and they are still laying together to this day in the Mission Dolores Cemetery. And if that is not the stuff of a great love story, I don't know what is. That is the episode, creeps. I really hope you enjoyed it. So maybe there wasn't any direct deaths at the location or paranormal activity that we know of. It's a church. People don't like talking about what happens there. I will tell you, it's a cemetery full of criminals, delinquents, unfortunate souls, and likewise, whatever that means. Thank you for watching the show, people. Okay, like us on Instagram, Facebook, connect with us. We have, actually, the next episode's the finale. So thank you again so much. Ching, ching. What? Yes. 100% sober right now. If I keep saying that over and over again, it might just be true.